Good evening and welcome back to another episode of Be Inspired, our regular weekly show focusing on inspiring personalities in the British Bangladeshi community. Well, let's start off by saying I hope you've had a fantastic Eid on Friday. And if any leftover samosas are left, get them. Stay tuned with us. We are going to have an amazing conversation with my special guest this evening. Well, this evening, I want to start by introducing my guest and to say, that thing they say, never judge a book by a cover. Never assume somebody looks smaller than you is less powerful, less stronger, less mightier, less braver. Um, I think that they also say the best thing comes in small packages. Well, I think this person I'm going to introduce you is wrapped up in every one of those saying. This evening, I have a person who not only once but twice has been awarded a bravery medal by the Commissioner of Metropolitan Police, who long list of achievement includes being the guard, as in the personal guard to the London 2012 torch, the Olympic torch, has looked after, has run with the likes of David Beckham, Amitabh Bachchan, and all sorts of other glamorous, wonderful people. Um, and on her spare time, she runs the marathon, does triathlon. And like many people, when you go on holiday, she takes time off to go and rescue people fleeing Syria on the borders of Turkey. And on a normal day, she's helping to save lives, protect London, and inspire the young generation through her work activity as a police officer. Yes, she is a police officer. Um, Good evening. Let me introduce you to my wonderful guest, Sakira Khatun Suzia.
Assalamualaikum.
Shakira, I mean, that introduction wasn't exactly the best introduction because let's be honest, right? You are, in all sense, a superwoman, right? You and your sisters, I should say, are supergirls. So why don't you, for our viewers who've never met you, have never come across you, why don't you give us a small introduction to this, a, a mighty package of a young British Bangladeshi woman that you are?
Oh my god. I wouldn't call myself a superhero first of all, but everything Abdul you've just said, it's true. So I've been in the police service for 12 years. First, I want to say I grew up in Tower Hamlet until the age of 11. Then I moved to Newham. I've always lived in crime-ridden areas. So I've had a fascination for crime and policing. So when I finished university, I joined the police. I'm also a marathon runner and I love like thrills, challenges. So whilst being in the police, I also trained to be a riot police officer, hence the bravery award for the Tottenham riots, where I did police frontline. Couple of years later, or actually a year later, the Olympics relay happened in London. So I applied to be an escort runner. So I ran all over the UK, securing the torch and the torch bearers and all the celebrities. And I've had so many different roles in the police, and currently I'm in the youth services. So I look after young offenders who unfortunately have fallen kind of short, and then they come through the criminal line. So I try and look after them, prevent them from going to court, ending up in prison. In my spare time, I do run marathons, triathlons, and I travel to kind of help out refugees to basically provide basic necessities to help them survive. I couldn't have done any of that without the support of my family and my community, and of course you, Abdul and Aisha, for recognizing all of this and always being at the background supporting me. So thank you, guys.
That's very kind of you. Yeah, no, I know you and Aisha, you both get along so well, and you know what, you're an inspiration to us, but I know to a lot of people. Just the fact that wonderful things that you do. So on top of your day job, on top of your everyday things, let's go back to this journey. You said you were in Tower Hamlets until the age of 11, and the fascination with policing, right? I mean, so some people, and we can say a lot of BME communities have a negative stereotype of a view of policing, but you saw it in a different way. Tell us about that sort of early memory and experience.
Okay, I'll tell you why I actually became a police officer.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Wapping, where you live. It
Yeah.
wasn't nice as it was back then. It was quite racist. BMP were out there. Every day playing outdoors meant we got chased by dogs, spat at, called all the racist names under, whatever. And unfortunately, the Bengali gangs were kind of thriving and they had postcode wars. So my dad moved us to Newham. Unfortunately, Newham wasn't any better. And so it was quite crime ridden too. Different crime, but still crime. And one day, me and my twin sister were coming back from school, and my sister got attacked. This is in front of my eyes. She, a grown white woman punched her in the temple. If you get punched there, it could be fatal. My dad always taught us self-defense, so I jumped in and I tried to defend my sister. This was a woman. I was a kid. We're 15 years old in school uniform. She got the better of me, dragged me by the hair, pulled my hair to the ground, and literally pulled my hair out. I had bow patches on my head. There was CCTV where the fight was taking place, but they were facing outwards. So the fight was taking place in the middle. A little kid in school uniform, a grown woman attacking her. Anyway, after this attack, went home. My older sister dragged me to the police station, and the police officer wouldn't report it. It was a white male officer, clearly not from London. And he said, well, you are an ethnic minority growing up in a crime-ridden area. Get used to it. It's a part of your upbringing. And that shocked me. I was like, no one deserves to get attacked, regardless where they're from, regardless where they live. So I turned around and said to him, you watch, just you watch. When I grow up, I'm going to be a police officer, because that's not policing. Policing is about protecting each other. It's about looking after one another. It's about keeping people safe. You should not feel frightened to go out to play. You should not be frightened to come from school, coming home from school. You should not get attacked just because of where you live. So I remember pointing my finger at him and telling him, when I grow up, I'm going to be a police officer. And I don't know how that I must have kind of embed that in my brain. And along the way, the career path I took, I became a police officer. So, yeah.
Hey, listen, at this point, I should disclose that, you do have a twin who is equally, in fact, I'm very honored to know there's 5 of you, the famous 5 sisters, and because I follow you on social media, what a great bunch you guys are, and it's a testament to your amazing parents for, bringing you up this way. But that spark in you, when you turn around and wiggle your little finger as a 15-year-old at the police officer who I'm sure maybe he's still around somewhere in the police service, who knows? But that inspiration, that sort of willingness, that sort of the fire in you to say, you know what, I'm not going to accept the wrongs just because I live in a postcode that isn't as, say, SW19 or something, right? Everybody deserves the best. So you've taken that, and fast forward 15 years, right? I'm not giving your age away, by the way. Fast forward, a few years, you become a police officer. Now, when you wear the uniform now, when you're out in London, and you meet another 15-year-old boy or girl who, because of their own upbringing, or because they've also been made to believe that, oh, you live in the E1 area, or you live in the E15 area, postcode, it's tough. How do you now relate that experience of your own in uniform or in your policing time to another person in London of all background?
How do I? Well, I've been there, and I think sometimes police officers get it wrong too. Like the officer who told me that I should get used to it just because I'm from that area. Young people are young people. Children are children, regardless where they're from. They're young, yeah. And sometimes when they're from a certain area, they have to toughen up because it's survival mode. So they can have a kind of exterior which is like defensive, but when they're with their friends, they are, gobby, and they give you all that. When you take them to a side and you talk to them on a personal level, they're just kids. And sometimes as police officers, we forget they're kids. So when I talk to a young person, I can relate 100% because they're from my community. I'm from London and I'm police in London. So I talk to them on a level because then they could relate to me. I understand them. I understand their culture. And if needs me, I can speak street lingo. So instead of them getting defensive, they're like, oh, she's all right. She's cool.
Yeah. Okay, now, I want to get you to, obviously, however you feel comfortable. And so let's paint this picture. London, right?
No.
Like, you're in uniform. Now, I'm not going to give your age, but I can definitely give you your height, right? Um, you're an average sized British Bangladeshi
Yes.
woman, right? That's the best way to describe it. You go to a scene, be it domestic, be it a family issue, or be it just someone's been burgled, right? You go into and you do police sometime around East London, right? So, you go, someone's in distress, and big bulky police officers, men and women, walk in, and then behind walks in Sakira, and the lady's trying to communicate, be it in Urdu or be it in a South Asian language, which you are quite familiar with, and you open your mouth. What's the reaction like?
The reaction is normally they see me as the savior because automatically they can relate to me. And you know what? That is what policing is. We're supposed to go in there. I'm not saying superheroes, but we're supposed to reassure them. There could be chaos going on, conflict going on. There's victims, in amongst that situation. And the whole point of policing is to safeguard and protect them. So quite often, the scenario you just explained is typical. It's so typical. So when they do see me, they speak in whatever language, they speak in, and they expect me to understand. And quite often I do understand. It's just when I'm communicating back, it's broken. So it's not long ago, I actually went into a house where it was a Bengali lady, she should do Bangla, Hindu lady, and she called the police, and her child was having a fit. It's a 2-year-old child was having a fit, and instead of calling the ambulance, she called the police, and she couldn't speak English. So when the police got there, we saw the child having a fit. Luckily, one of my colleagues did like wherever he could CPR, etc., etc. And then she was screaming and shouting in broken English, and I couldn't communicate with her because I didn't know what language she was speaking. So I look up on the wall, there was something written in Bangla. So then I realized she's Bengali. So I spoke to her in Bengali and I explained to the police what was going on with the child beforehand. So when the paramedics came, I managed to relay all of that, so they knew exactly what was needed for the child to make the child come back to normality again. So language, it's so necessary, and that's why I think, like I always say, I try and promote ethnics, Bangladeshis, Muslim, what have you, whatever ethnic background, join the police, because crime is not specific to one community. Crime is not specific to the white community or black community. It's everywhere. So we need our people to be within the police to be able to communicate, to be able to police all communities.
Now it's 20 years since I joined the police authority, so I'm not doing not a discharge service, but I'm not exactly out there to sort of promote it. People have to make their own mind.
Yes.
But what I want to say is, it is a police force for London should look and feel and reflect the London it serves. Now, you at the age of 15, in your heart, through your own experience, said, you know what, I'm going to go out there. And it's not that, it was a cop-out, like you didn't go to university. You went and did, a degree. You went and did your qualification, and then you chose to be a police officer. How can a young British Asian listening to you feel that, you know what, I also want to serve my city, or I want to serve the police force? And like I said, it doesn't have to be in London. It could be in Glasgow. It could be anywhere in the UK they live. But I know what inspired you. But what can you say to them to say this is not just a dead end job? It is about really saving lives and protecting the city from all types of criminality and so forth. So what's the best piece of advice you can give them?
Okay, one of the things that I think I did wrong when I went in the police is I was quite young and I tried to fit in. I think for Bangladeshis, we come from poverty-stricken areas, deprived economic areas. We didn't go to the best schools, things were not great for us. So there's a lot of challenges. And sometimes as coming from these backgrounds, we sometimes feel a little bit ashamed. Yeah, so we try and fit in to the police because that's the normality. But the moment you try to fit in is you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle because you're denying your identity. So one of the main thing I'll say to young people trying to join the police, know yourself. Like, really know yourself. Be proud of being a Bangladeshi. Be proud of being from Tower Hamlet, Newham. Doesn't matter what background you're from. Be proud of that. Be proud of being a Muslim. Yeah. Know your history to a certain extent that it makes you feel like, proud. So when you join, you be who you are, you be present. So even though you're white or non-Muslim or non-Asian colleagues see you, they will get curious, because racism does exist. There's no denial, but let them get curious. Let them, start asking questions. So when they start asking questions and when they see you as a normal person, you naturally fit in. So I would say definitely know yourself. Yeah. Um, you need, I think most Bengalis are already a little bit resilient and resistant because of where they're from, and our ancestral history is resilient and resistant, from the wars that we've gone through. India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, the Bengal family is in us, is embedded in us. And I think the feistiness, the fire is already in us. So you have to be robust. It's not, policing is not just about chasing criminals and all the glorified victory, because when we police, it's not just stop and search. We're going into people's houses, we're going into people's private domain, we're dealing with car crashes, we're dealing with limbs everywhere, suicides hanging from trees, so much that you have to mature quickly. Yes, and you have to adapt quickly. And the senses that we use, our five senses, they're not the only thing that's alert. You'll have six senses, seven senses, everything is alert. So when you go into a scenario, normally the call comes up from the radio and you hear, you're going to a burglary. But until you go to the scenario, you don't know fully what kind of a burglary it is. There might be, on the radio, you might say one suspect. Yeah, when you go there, there's several suspects with weapons. You're, it's so scary, but at the same time, kind of exhilarating, because you don't know how you're going to deal with it. So on the way, when you're zooming there, your head is going and you're thinking of what the scenario will be. So you have to act. And once you land at the scene, you're quickly acting. So the advice I give: exercise your mind. Make sure you're fit, because when you're fit, that is fit, and you can think quickly. And also you have to be quite strong. I'm quite small compared to my colleagues, but I'm not dealing with small people. I'm dealing with big people. I'm dealing with people who are much bigger than me. So not only small, you have to be swift and quick, and always be polite and humanly, because people respond to humans. People don't respond to authority. They will react and they'll start fighting. So I say be humanly. One of the things I learned when I first went in is I tried to be like a male officer, so I was authoritative. I tried to be big, but when I did that, the counteraction was that's how they treated me. It wasn't nice. So the moment I started being just Shakira, the response was much nicer, because most often fights are amongst men. When they see male officers, they want to fight with men. When they see female officers, they stand back, they look down, they see me, by that time they're in cuffs. So the response is much nicer. So it's tactics that you learn when you're policing, you learn with the experience. But everyone has different ways of policing. You don't have to follow your colleagues. My soft touch works better than my colleagues' harsh ways. If needs be, I'll get hands on. If there's no need, I won't. I've never ever hit anyone in my 12 years of service.
Well, thank you for that. Now you've touched on something which I want to bring up next, which is about being fit. Now you've got a grueling, tough job. As you said, in order to think fast, you've got to be mentally, ready, and you do a lot of prep for that. Now, as I'm hoping, I know for sure, and when this show finishes this evening, a lot of people will be looking at your name on Facebook and on others on socials.
Yeah.
Now, as I said, I'm a big fan of yours and your wonderful family, and I got to know most of your sisters quite well now. And my God, when I'm sort of still thinking, what shall I have for breakfast on Christmas morning? You and your lovely sisters, you're already out there by the London docks, doing the lap, doing their exercise, doing this. And, your wonderful sister, Nazia, who's ever so famous now on doing BBC and Sport, Sky Sport, she's kind of like giving you girls instructions. And I mean, do you ever get a day off? I mean, obviously not. But talk about this regime, this sort of love for adrenaline sports that you all got, but you personally got. How did that come about?
When I was a kid, I was such a shy kid. I really was such a shy kid. But
I believe that now.
Huh?
I believe you, yeah.
And well, there's twins, so one has to be loud, one has to be quiet. I was a quiet, shy one.
Okay.
But when it came to sports, in school, I was amazing. Like, I know I'm blowing my own trumpet, but anything else, I was at the background. When it came to sports, I was at the forefront because you didn't have to communicate. It's something just came to me naturally, and I excelled in sports. And then later on, I had to work on myself and come out the shyness. It's still in me, but nothing wrong with being shy. But I found running, like people do yoga to relax. I found running kind of as my yoga. So I used to run and declutter. So the love for sport is actually quite embedded in our family. My dad used to take us siblings out and we used to play sports together. So it's always been in our family. And I think it's so vital to kind of learn about you. But your body's there to move. Your limbs are there to move. So move, you know. If you look after your body, naturally you release happy hormones. Therefore, your brain is active. You rest better. Everything about your health, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, you are in a better state when you do fitness. So it's an all-rounder, and I think whatever kind of career you go into, if you're in an office space, if you're sat down too long, you get back problems, you get so many different problems. So doing sports is better for you, and being a police officer, I think, is vital. I don't want to
You
be
must be the fastest. You must be the fastest, fittest officers, because I've seen some police officers who, I'll be honest with you.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh
I
my
know
God.
that. I know some of your colleagues will be watching. Let's not embarrass them too much, but I mean, it is important. I mean, not. I mean, as you said, you're not just chasing criminals, but it's about the presentation. You know, if you look the part as not in uniform, you kind of give
People
a sense of
respect you.
confidence.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't want to be chasing a suspect and then looking behind and my colleagues having a heart attack, you know, and that should never be the case. You should always look after you because you're responsible for you, you know. And when you're chasing a suspect, there's been times where I have chased suspects and I've had to slow down because my colleagues are so far away. And if I didn't slow down, I'll be in danger.
Yeah, of
So,
course.
you know, but it's vital in any kind of.
But you've taken this love for keeping fit, both from a professional point of view in terms of work, to a different level. Now, you've run some amazing marathons, right? And I'm so jealous because I saw those pictures of you in Palestine. Some incredible photos of the morning, the sunrise outside the Golden Temple Mosque.
Yeah.
Talk us about your love for competing now, because you do spend. You've taken part in some amazing events, the London Triathlon, and you've done some other events. How did that come about? And it's also because you do it as a family with your sisters.
Yeah.
And it's pretty amazing for a Bangladeshi family of girls to sort of be so competitive and so sporty.
We compete with each other.
Mm.
If you don't compete, you don't progress. You don't go, forward. Not only do we compete with each other from a young age, we are each other's cheerleaders. So where we fall short, the other person will push us and try and make us improve. So I've been running marathons since my early 20s because it was really difficult to get into the London Marathon. And since then, I've run 6 marathons, full marathon, and lots of half marathons. I did the half marathon in Morocco last January with Team MC, and
Yeah.
then that led to Palestine half marathon. That's what I'm saying. When you keep yourself fit, you can do things spontaneously, and because your mindset is there and you know you can do it because you've done it previously, you can just do things and do sports whatever country, and you'll just keep going. So me and my siblings, we always support each other regardless. And my brother, he's quite
Yeah, I'm
competitive.
sorry. At this point, I should say, the one brother in the house. I am your. I'm your adopted brother, but you have a biological brother who also does shy. He's quite shy, as we say. He doesn't really
Not on social media.
on social media. Yeah, but look. So as well as having this amazing tough job where you put on a soft touch to get the result, right? I've heard stories when you said that when you open your mouth, you speak Bangla, there's that instant, feeling of secure, and someone feels, that they're in comfort, a safety mode. You do your wonderful activities, you run this amazing backdrop, be it Morocco, be it Palestine, all these wonderful places. But then when some of us are thinking, where should we go? Obviously, this COVID situation we'll come to that in a minute. But on a normal time in the past, when, summer holiday comes, Christmas holiday comes, people go off somewhere warmer, somewhere sunny, somewhere skiing. What does Sakira do? Sakira packs as little as possible, gets in a car, goes to Calais, goes to Lapos,
Yes,
goes Lagos,
yes,
or goes to some other real difficult places to go and help the most destitute, most needy children coming off the refugee boat in the freezing cold water. I mean, I've seen your live feeds, and obviously, I'm not saying I had tears in my eyes. I mean, I'm not going to admit to that, but it was, yeah, it was, like I feel so proud to say, you know what, I know Shakira, and I'm so proud of you, and not just you, your friends and family and your sisters. I mean, what gets you to go and do all those amazing things? What is it? I mean, how do you find the strength and courage and you know uh, the will? Because you need a time off. You also need to relax and
yeah,
unwind, but you
absolutely.
choose to use your annual leave to go and do this
Yeah.
amazing things.
It is manual leave. I think because otherwise, if I don't help, my heart won't feel at rest, at peace. And I think when it started for me was in 2015 when we kept seeing the Syrian refugees fleeing from Syria, when war was at its peak, and we kept seeing these on the TV. The way I see it, these are our brothers and sisters. If they're suffering, we're suffering. And I know, like, so many people at home, they sit there and they want to do something, but they don't know what. But in 2016 February, I didn't want to think anymore. I just wanted to go out there and help. So me and my sister packed our bags, two other friends. We went over to Lesbos, which is where the Syrian refugees were fleeing from Syria to Turkey into Europe. And Lesbos was one of the main islands they were fleeing to. When we got out there, we met other volunteers, and like literally every single night we'd wait by the shore and we'd wait for boats to come in. And there wasn't much of a policy at that time for volunteers to go and help. So we did what we could. Yeah, we'd pull in boats. Remember, I had been doing triathlons beforehand. So we were well equipped. We had a triathlon kit and we used to go into the water, pull in boats. It was freezing and it was absolutely horrific. If you just imagine like pitch black on a shore, boats coming in, shrieking, crying. There's pregnant women, there's elderly, disabled, all sorts of people, and they've just fled from war. There's some people with bullets still in them. We're literally like dragging the boats in and help them off the boat. And we did that like for 2 weeks. And so that was our night shift. And during the day, we'd go have breakfast, have a couple of hours nap, and then we'd go into the camp. And for me, it felt like I was going to a 999 call. So it's like zooming like on the shore to one call to another call. Instead, it wasn't a calls, it's boats. We were just zooming through the shore, going to boats, rescuing them, going to the next boat, rescuing them. So that we did every single night, and during the day we'd give our aid like food, clothes to the refugees in the camp. But one of the things I want to say is, and I mention this story all the time, because whilst we were giving out clothes, there was one woman who saw me and she started screaming and shouting something in Arabic. She was actually rejoicing. She was shrieking and she kept kissing me and hugging me. So I asked the man beside me, what is she saying? And he kept saying, oh, you're her hero. You saved her from the boat last night. And I'm like, I'm not her hero. Like, I can't even remember her, but she remembers me.
Mm.
And that story kind of stuck to me because to her, I'm her hero, but to me, she's my hero because for me, she's opening up the doors to Jannah. Like we are helping them because our limbs work and we are able to. We've got that privilege. But for her, like she's just come and she's landed on land. She's not drowned. So for her to meet someone like myself and other volunteers, it means the world to them. So it sticks to me because however we respond to people, in whatever way, it affects them. And that's every single day. And that's my policing career too. The way I respond to someone, it affects them in a good way, in a bad way. So that's why we should always try and be like kind and nice in our nature, the way we respond to people. So I could go on about my refugee trips.
No, no, no,
That's
no. I'm. Listen. This is why I'm doing this show. And if you
yeah.
tuned in, you're watching a weekly podcast on Be Inspired. And this evening, I'm really honoured to have this amazing young British Bangladeshi police officer who is beyond the call of what they call the call of duty. Um, we've just been sharing stories about how at the age of 15 that she knew in her heart that she wanted to be a police officer. went off to do the degree, and then became a police officer. But not only a police officer, she has done amazing. If you've missed it, go back and watch it from the beginning. You'll be truly inspired. Um, so let's pick up on a couple of more of those wonderful sort of small things that you've done that's been beyond the call of duty. You know, most police officers live outside London, come into London, do a few years, and move out somewhere else. But you're a product of London. You are a Londoner, right? And then this amazing thing happens. Well, no, before the amazing things in 2012, there was that small incident of a London riot. Yeah, it was a small incident, right? Of a London riot. Now, you're this, can I say, a 4 foot something, okay? Yeah,
Five
Bangladesh.
foot 1.5, okay?
Okay, sorry. 5 foot 1.5. It is important to get that half in. Um,
Yes.
in uniform, trained,
Yeah.
right, trained, because hey, you know, you don't just want to be a normal police officer. You want to do the kind of the big stuff, the macho stuff. And then you get this call. The blues and twos, for those who don't know, is when the lights go on and the police van goes zooming. Um, you're sent to North London, Tottenham,
Yeah.
where some angry men are not happy. They're breaking all the sports shops and they're burning everything and they're having a go at the police.
Yeah.
And you, 5 foot 1.5, in riot gear, are in the front line. Talk us through that experience.
I don't know if you remember, it's Ramadan during
Ah,
that
of
time.
course, I
Oh,
remember.
oh dear God. So that night I was on night shift and I was on jailer duty. Jailer duty is when you look after the prisoners. So I remember just breaking my fast and my sergeant runs into custody and goes, Shakira, get your kit on. Because there weren't enough riot officers. There's only a few of us. And so I rushed into my locker room, got my kit on. And I have been to so many protests, and when you wear your riot kit, you have the paddings. Now I never wear my paddings. That night I wore everything here. I was like Robocop. So we got into our van, and as soon as we got to Tottenham High Road, and I put my helmet on, got out the van, and a TV like hit me right on my head. It was like literally raining furniture. And when I looked onto the road on either side, all the shops are burning. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I was scared because you see war-torn images on TV, and there I was, like in the midst of it. And the next thing I know is our inspectors shoved big shields in our hands and pushed us to the front. What happened is the territorial support policing group were getting tired. So our civil got pushed right to the front, and now I was stood there right at the front of a riot, protecting my colleagues who are at the back with the small shields. And me and my colleagues, all my colleagues, male colleagues, 5'10", 5'6". I'm the only female, about 5'6" at the shield's height, and I am 5'1" 1.5". So I'm stood upright, all my colleagues crouching down to hide behind the shield, and there's riots going on in front of us. The whole time, like on either side of us, every shop is getting looted, and there's fire on either side. And then the rioters are coming at us, throwing rocks at us, wherever they could find. At the same time, it was like I said, it was raining furniture, so we were getting hurled left, right, center. And as we were advancing forward, pushing the writers back, and I just broken my father, not a lot to eat, my legs were shaking, and we just kept advancing. And at one point, what scared me was a young rioter came up to us and poured petrol all over me and my colleague. Yeah, so any moment now I thought, no, this is like, I'm gonna like blow up into flame. Luckily nothing happened. Our kit is fireproof, but luckily nothing happened. And I'll tell you what, it's the only time I stood there saying, thank you, Allah, for creating us Bengalis small, because I was still stood upright. My colleagues beside me, because they tower over the shield, they were knocked unconscious. My partner, like beside me, his ears were bleeding, their backs were hurting, and we were like stood at the front of the serial for the whole entire night, just advancing. It was the most surreal kind of experience. Yeah, and it just kept going, and yeah,
Wow.
it was a
No,
mad.
I've just got an image of you as RoboCop in the middle of the battlefield in Tottenham High Road. And for that, I mean, for that courageous that incident, and obviously there were a number of other incidents in that sort of difficult time, you did get for those who don't know, a commissioner's award. You know, the Commissioner of London Police, you know, gives you, it's like getting the Queen to give you a medal. You got one, but then not just one, you got two.
Yes.
So did you give the other one to your twin? That's what I want to know. So tell us about the second one. Tell us briefly about the second one.
So 2010, an application came out, and it was advertising like security escort runners for the Olympic relay, which is coming to London. At that time, I was still in my probation. So I remember seeing the application and thinking, my God, this is me. This is Sakira. So I went to my sergeant and I said, Sarge, you need to fill out a little section. He said, no, Sakira, you're not experienced enough. This role is not for inexperienced police officers. It's for experienced, more skilled police officers. So I was like, if I don't try, I'll never know. And I am a runner and I've got military experience. So who are you to tell me if this is like good for me or not? I applied anyway. He did his little bit, and lo and behold, I got in. So throughout 2010, it was assessments, fitness tests, interviews. That was 2010. December 2010, I get a call from the chief inspector, and he was like, Sakira, get your trainers on. You're on the team. And I was like, what? Is this man joking? I was one of the youngest on the team at that time. And then the rest of 2011, we were just training. I wasn't as fit as the other officers. So every single day I ran to work. In the evening, I was doing gymming, weights. I took up boxing. I boxed for the Metropolitan Police. I took up every sport just so I can get fit. And then come 2012, it was my team who started their relay off in Land's End, and basically our job was to secure the torch bearers, and run. Every 4 days we run like marathon. And alhamdulillah, right at the end, we had to apply again to do the opening show. And I said, I really want to be at the opening show because it's coming to Stratford. That's my hometown. I represent the community. I want to do the last leg. And I managed to get that role too. So my claim to fame is the last flame that lit the bigger flame. It was my flame that went to David Beckham, who passed it on to the upcoming Olympic stars. And then they ran, and then they lit the whole torch.
Hey, there you go. That's an amazing story to share. And you know what? I have to share this with you, right? I hope you're not too embarrassed. For those of you who can download it on BBC, you can see the torch relay, and you can see Sakira running with the torch flame.
Oh
and
my God!
and we showed it to our children the other day because obviously, as you know, Aisha had a small but a very important role in bringing the Olympic to London. And so we were like, reminiscing about the Olympic the other day. It's been 15 years from the bid decision granted. So we were watching part of it, but we got to the bit where Sakira is seen guarding the Olympic flame, running with some celebrity. So yeah, it was an amazing. So no, not only one, but two commissioner's medal to pin on your 5'1.5" height. Numbers marathon, triathlon, and between all this, still getting together to do your Arabic classes, still doing amazing charitable work across the community. But let's talk about this COVID situation. Not only has it prevented you from flying out to do amazing adventure, drilling, sport, but also the charity work, right? But are you sort of still actively doing things, bringing people together, still raising awareness on causes through social media, online? How are you adapting to the COVID situation?
I'm working from home. I was called on duty, but I had word with my sergeant. I live at home. I'm not bringing any COVID viruses home when I live at home. So in terms of working, I'm on my laptop. But in terms of any refugee work, currently, actually, we've got a Insaf is our charity. It means justice. We've got a friend who's out in Lesbos where we first started off doing our charity work, and he literally, I think, came back today. He gave up kurbani meat, so it's something we've been raising funds for. Not only that, like I always say, charity starts at home. So you look after your family, you look after your friends. look after your neighbours. We don't know how many poverty-stricken people, families there are in London, in the UK. And luckily, our team members, in South team members, found quite a few families who didn't even have basic necessities. So in South team, despite COVID, despite us not being able to travel to Bangladesh for the Rohingyas, we were able to provide aid to people who, in London basically, who were basically on the bare minimum surviving. So we were able to kind of distribute these kind of aids. Our work never stops. You know, even though lockdown, we keep going, and we make people aware on social media or word of mouth, just so people are aware what's going on in around the world. And just by raising awareness, it opens people's eyes, and it basically eliminates ignorance a little bit, you know. So we just keep going.
And just on that ignorance thing, I mean, one of the things that I've really been quite taken back by recently, what you've done, it was about those who've come into the faith. You are a very, you're an ambassador for everything that is great about British Bangladeshi, British Muslim, and about an institution like the Metropolitan Police. I mean, you know, you are not a typical Met police officer. Now, I know this because, you know, I've had some long history of working with some senior officers in the Met. You represent the very best of the diverse of London police. But recently I felt, you know, when I say inspired, it was really pleasing to see. You did this event recently with those who've come into the Muslim faith for home Eid celebration. It's a lonely affair, right?
Yeah.
But you put together an event for new Muslims together, or reverts, right? Which was really beautiful to see. I mean, it's like a growing of your family, expanding your family kind of event.
Absolutely.
How did that come about? And
it was actually my younger sister Salma's idea.
Okay.
Salma had this idea for years ago.
She's the clever one in the family. Okay.
Yeah, she's the comedian.
She's great, by the way. I like her.
Every year would say, we'll arrange it, and then for some reason something gets in the way. And this year, obviously COVID hit, and for a lot of people, they spent Ramadan Eid at home. So for us born Muslim, even though we spend it at home, we're around family. But what about our revert brothers and sisters? Quite a lot of them, they don't live with their family. They're by themselves. You know, they can't spend Ramadan with their family or Eid. So it doesn't seem like a celebration. And we've got quite a few friends who are from Muslim friends who are from, you know, different parts of Europe who've come into London, and they're part of our Insaf charity group. And we thought it would be a really good idea if we have those who spend Eid by themselves, those who are new to the religion or old to the religion, revert brothers and sisters who are not around other people. And COVID has kind of isolated us from other people. So Salma thought we could actually have an event, get everyone together and share our experiences. And we had revert brothers tell us how they came into the Deen. And it was just such a beautiful, beautiful event. And it was like a big family. It's like one of our brothers or sisters joining our smaller family, making it bigger. It's all about uniting each other. It's about the ummah, isn't it? So yeah, we had spoken words.
Positive action, and you know, bringing positiveness to the family and the wider family. Yeah. And it was a really great thing. And credit to Salma for pulling it off. I mean, as I said, you know, I watched it on social. I thought that's such a great idea. And I have to say, in COVID situation, it was all maintained in safe space and meter apart. And so, just in case someone's watching, making notes. You know what? I'm conscious of time, Sakira. I'm taking a lot of your time, but you know, it's only a 45-minute conversation. But for those who are interested in learning more about the Insaf work, or you know, sharing, you know, or learning more about you, give us some social sites that they can visit or they can join to.
I'm on Instagram. I don't really like social media, but I am on Instagram, Shaksuli. A lot of my charity work is on that. You've got Insaf charity group, Insaf. We've got me and my sisters, whatever we do, keeping up with the cartoons.
Yeah, that's a whole new episode. I will do a show with all 5 of you one day. The halal version of the halal version of the Bengali version of the K family, right? That's what I will. Let's keep it like that, yeah. Well, look, I really want to thank you for sharing your story, amazing story of this boy, girl from the Eastern, from the Eastern, the boys, and beat them at sports at their school, who became fascinated through sheer brutal experience of racism and just the whole generation divide, became a police officer, but then took it to a new height. I mean, if the Metropolitan Police diversity or recruitment department is watching this, which I hope they are, Sakira is the prime example of a role model who can inspire a generation of youngsters in London to join the police, to make the police force reflective of the London that we now live in. And I say this 20 years trying to make London police to feel and look and sound like the London it serves. And then, my God, your charitable work. I mean, to be out there in the cold, not knowing who you're going to pull from those boats, those dinghies, as effectively they are, to give these people a chance to become human again, because they've left for and some of these people are not just looking for economical refugees. These are people who are doctors, lawyers, engineers, who've left their livelihood to survive, and you've literally been on the receiving end of their dream, of their safety. I'm sure everyone watching at home would want to thank you for you and your fellow friends and family members who took the courageous decision. But the dreaded COVID hasn't stopped you from still continuing to do good for others. If anything, you've used that lockdown period to sort of look at innovative ways to engage and to still do the fundraising through social and deliver Qurbani meat to the need, and bring new families and create new families by bringing people together in your Eid celebration. What's next? A few minutes to say what's next. I mean, what would you like to do next?
Oh my God, you put me on the spot.
Commissioner of London Police. We've had the first female, so you can't be the first female commissioner, but first Muslim commissioner, woman police officer.
I don't know.
Are you? Let's end on the fact that, are you still committed to staying in the police force?
I am still committed. I like my brown face being at the front line. I need people to see this face, and I'm not going anywhere, because I think if we're present, like I said, people feel reassured within the police because they see us and they get curious, and outside the police so the community can see us. And like I said, as soon as they see us, they feel reassured, and that itself is helping. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. I've been a police officer nearly all my life. It's what I know. Different roles maybe, but I'll be in the police for a long time, I think. Inshallah.
And on that note, all I can visualize is that, do you remember when we were growing up watching the bill, the men and police officer would walk in? So it's that time for those that sound to come in. Sakira, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. We look forward to seeing you, or I look forward to seeing you in person sometime soon. But for everyone else, I hope they will definitely be following your social to feel inspired by continue every day by the work that you do. So thank you very much for your time this evening. Viewers, thank you. Viewers, thank you once again for tuning in. I hope you feel really inspired by the work that Sakira does. And stay with us till next week. We will bring another inspirational guest. Till then, keep well. Good evening.